Payson, tell us about where you live.
So in 2011, I moved to Durango, Colorado to go to school and also pursue my dreams of being a pro mountain bike racer. If you want to be an endurance mountain bike racer in the United States, there's not really any better place to come than Durango. The community here is unbelievably supportive, just of cycling in general. And with that comes incredible support for the pro riders that live here. And it just it's almost this vicious cycle that just feeds itself. We have, for any given race weekend, it seems like half the results sheet is Durango riders. So it's really cool to be here and be able to learn from a bunch of legends of the sport. I mean, the riding here is pretty unparalleled. The trail access from town is really hard to beat. It's just one huge playground, you know? That's the main reason I'm here.
What are your favorite trails locally?
One thing about southwestern Colorado is the geological diversity, and because of that, there's an incredible diversity of trail types. So back this way, we have kind of more shale dirt with really steep, like Hero Dirt roller coaster trails. This way we have Horse Gulch, which is more arid, almost like Grand Junction, rocky type trails. Back north we have more of the classic alpine, aspen lined trails. You know, you can really get whatever you want here.
Cool. Off the bike, what's the best thing about Durango?
There's a lot of good things. I think all of the other outdoor recreation opportunities is pretty unique. There's incredible fly fishing here. We have a river that runs right through town. If you like water sports, obviously there's tons of 14ers in our backyard. We have the Weminuche Wilderness right that away, which is vast. We also have, at least at one point, we had the most number of restaurants per capita of anywhere in the country, and a lot of them are actually pretty highly regarded, so that's a fun aspect also.
Okay. To move on from Durango, racing is excuse me. Racing is taking you to some incredible places. Which is the most memorable?
I have lots of amazing memories from racing. That's one reason I keep doing it. But one of the most exotic and one of the ones that I think when I'm close to my deathbed I'll still remember is when I went to Mongolia for the Mongolia Bike Challenge in 2016. It was just so removed from anything else I'd done, any other place I'd been. There's so much amazing history there, and it feels so untouched that was definitely one of the most memorable.
How long have you been mountain biking?
So yeah, this is actually a little bit of a longer story, but I'll try to keep it succinct. So my dad got me into riding bikes when I was 4 or 5. He used to race mountain bikes, and I did my first race when I was 6 years old at the Más o Menos Chihuahua Desert Dirt Fest, which may ring a bell for some of the old timers of mountain biking. That's out in West Texas. So I did that one race, and then my dad developed a health issue that actually put him in a wheelchair for some time, and we stopped going to the races for that reason, and I stopped racing. I got more into mainstream sports at that point in middle school and then high school, but something kind of kept pulling me back to the bike, and eventually when I was 14 years old I got back into mountain bike racing and haven't looked back since.
So you actually touched on my next question. What other sports were you into?
Yeah, so I started in track and field, just because that was the first option. And then I played a pretty good amount of basketball, some cross-country running, and some track and field. Flag football too.
Cool. Up to this point in your career, what are you most proud of as a cyclist?
It's always it always feels good to win races because it's I guess it's some sort of you get personal satisfaction just knowing that all the hard work you've put in was worth it. But honestly, the thing that brings me the most satisfaction at this point is when I get messages or people come up to me at the races and tell me about how my riding or racing or maybe a story I wrote, anything, impacted them positively and inspired them in some way, or got them back on the bike, or got them to the race that we happen to be at, whatever it is. That easily trumps any race win. So that's at this point, honestly, I'm more in it for that.
Any particular instance or moment?
I'm trying to think of a recent example. There was one guy that wrote me a message on Instagram that told me about how he had been struggling with some physical and emotional stuff, and he quit bike riding because he was getting frustrated with it for a handful of reasons, and then he started following my racing and riding, and for whatever reason that inspired him to get back on the bike, and it actually, he said, turned his life around, both from a health standpoint and emotionally, which was pretty mind-blowing for me, and got me a little bit choked up, because when I got into this, I never would have expected that anything of that impact would happen. But if a workout gets hard at some point, I go back to that sort of thing a lot more than, I really want to win this next race.